Shalom, shalom, shalom to everyone watching. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero with Los Caminos de Israel, Ways of Israel, Darchei Israel. I want to welcome you on this topic of Mashiach. Everybody wants Mashiach, even those who are not even Jewish. And they all scream with the same fervor and desire, we want Mashiach now, Akshav. Interesting photo that came and appeared of a Hasidic rabbi putting and showing his phylactery or his tefillin, lifting it up in the air. You've probably already seen it. It went viral. And it's clearly a Chabad rabbi who lifted up his tefillin up in the air. And behind him, interesting point, there was a Jewish couple there making out in the background. You'll see it on the background. And right next to him was a little case that said Mashiach Akshav, which means we want Mashiach now. And of course with the picture of the Lubavitcher Rebbe with his hand up in the air, which we all know that about 85% of all Chabad rabbis believe that he is the Mashiach, the potential Mashiach, even though he passed away. And technically, according to some, is disqualified by being the Mashiach. He was never declared Mashiach except by the group of Hasidim in 770. As a matter of fact, there's a whole entire group that still believes that he's alive, walking around somewhere, and that he's no longer in the kever, in the place of burial. There are even some who believes that he is the very Ein Sof, which means the eternal light, the very presence of God in a human flesh. Now, why am I bringing this up? No, not to cause controversy, because the controversy has been started up many years ago, hoping that it would be calmed down. But of the nature of the fervor and the extreme views many times takes a whole entire story of itself. And it's very important that we learn Rambam, no doubt about it, because we were able to understand what the Rambam really had in mind. It wasn't this idea of a Messiah who is going to die and then be resurrected, or die at some point and be then brought back to life. Just the opposite. We started in the beginning, the very beginning of the chapter 11 in Hílchot Melachim, that says very clearly that the final anointed king who will rise from the descendants of David and save Israel in the final days. That's in chapter 11, related to Numbers chapter 24, verse 17 through 18. So obviously if he's a melech, if he's a king, that means that he's already recognized as a king, anointed king. There's a whole entire process in which you anoint the kings of Israel, in particular the king of Yehuda. Now, interesting enough, we are seeing things taking place that is quickly pushing forward our entire process of the expectation of Mashiach in a way that we have never believed. As many of you know, I had sent a letter back in 2020 to Mr. President Trump, knowing that he was going to be reelected. And I said to him, when you become president, please make the declaration, a proclamation of calling on the nations to build the house of the Lord. Now, even that request has a very deep effect if he does, in fact, make a proclamation worldwide to call on the nations to rebuild the house of the Lord. And I say use that expression because it has implications to other religious communities. Because it's obvious there's a vacuum, a lack of spirituality. And the only thing and the only way I believe that will bring back, you might say, that umph, that lightning powerful hit in the world is when the house of the Lord is rebuilt. Interesting enough, we learn also that when the Second Temple was rebuilt, it started at the declaration of Cyrus, the king of Persia. I want you to notice what's going on in the Middle East with Persia and all of this happening. Well, in the Second Temple period, it was King Cyrus who called on to the Jews to begin the rebuilding of the construction of the Beit HaMikdash, the Temple of the Lord. And he King Cyrus appointed Zerubbabel to lead forward the rebuilding. Now, wouldn't that be incredible if Mr. President Trump would not only call on the nations of the world to rebuild the temple, but actually appoint a descendant of the house of David to lead forward the construction of the temple. Now, obviously, there are people that will not qualify. Like, for example, we have to disqualify all of those in the past that could have been, should have been, and would have been the potential Mashiach, the Mashiach candidate. And they're no longer physically around. So that automatically disqualifies Jesus, it disqualifies the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and it disqualifies everyone during the past. All of them are disqualified. Now, I know my Chabad friends will get upset at me with that. This is the reason why, because of the parallel that exists between, I will just use the J religion and the Schneerson movement, that both movements have a commonality. They both could have been, should have been, and would have been. And this is why it's so important to hear what the Rambam says in chapter 12. Do not presume that in the Messianic age, the nature of the world will change, or there will be innovations in the work of creation. Rather, the world will continue according to its pattern. Although in Isaiah 11, verse 6, it states the wolf will dwell with the lamb. The leopard will lie down with the young goat. These words are metaphors and are parables. The interpretation of prophecy is as follows. Listen to what the Rambam says. Israel will dwell securely, together with the wicked Gentiles who are likened to wolf and the leopard in the prophecy of Jeremiah, chapter 5, verse 6. The wolf from the wilderness shall spoil them, and the leopard shall stalk their cities. And they will all, listen very closely, they will all return to the true faith and no longer steal or destroy. Rather, they will eat permitted foods and will be at peace with Israel, as it states in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 7. And it states, the lion will eat straw like an ox. And similarly, other messianic prophecies of this nature are metaphors, not to be taken literally. According to the Rambam, in the Messianic era, everyone will realize which matters were implied by these metaphors and which allusions they are contained. There will be no difference, says the Rambam, between the current age and the Messianic era, except emancipation, which means that they will be now, you might say, as it were, emancipated from the previous bondage or slavery or obligations, from our subjugations to the Gentile kingdoms. The simple interpretations of the prophet's words appears to simply mean that the war of Gog and Magog will take place at the beginning of the Messianic era, or the Messianic age. Before the war of Gog and Magog, a prophet will arise to make Israel upright and prepare their hearts to serve God, as it stated in Malachi chapter 3, verse 22. Behold, I am sending you Elijah. He will not come to declare pure impure, or declare the impure pure. He will not dispute, this is very important, he will not dispute the lineage of those presumed to be of proper pedigree, nor will he establish the pedigree of those lineages presumed to be blemished. In other words, he's not going to get into involvement of who is truly of Jewish lineage or not. That's not his job. Rather, he will establish peace within the world. He will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children. By the way, making mention about this of the lineage of which is pure and not pure. He will not come to declare the pure impure or declare the impure impure. His commentary is a reference to Hílchot chapter 8, verse 7 in the Mishnah. The Rambam writes that Moses conveyed the tradition that before the coming of the Messiah, Elijah would motivate the people to the service of God. However, he will not make any changes in the Torah. He's not going to add or change. And hence, similarly, the halakha states, the Torah, its statute, its laws are everlasting, and we may not add to them or detract from them. There's a couple of things that have been happening. Among those things which has to do with the laws of conversion and the laws of return, of shavim. Laws which the majority of Jews have no idea that a person who happens to be of Jewish ancestry, yes, Jewish blood, which a lot of people are so against, it's like, oh, just have them convert. No! There are people who have alleged and have stated and have remunerated that they are of Jewish ancestries. Many of you know them as anusim, or people that were forced to have to take upon themselves a religion which was never theirs. Perfect story, which I always love talking about, is Jeannie Milgram. Jeannie Milgram has had to document her entire story, that she was in fact of Jewish lineage, and she was right. She went and said, thank God she had the financial ability to do the research necessary to undig or to dig up her lineage. Over 15 years of history of being of Jewish descendant, matrilineally speaking. That's why she wrote the book, which has been an incredible bestseller. And she's still working in this area to help dig up many others that are also of Jewish lineage. She's doing incredible work. As a matter of fact, when she first started, we had a conference in Miami all about Anusim descendants, which was a great opening for her to launch what she's launched. And Baruch Hashem, thank God I was part of her initial beginnings, as it were, to get moving, because she has done an incredible job and really has done an incredible work on her own sechut, on her own merit, and Michael, her husband, right there along, supporting her in her work. Incredible. So thank you, Jeannie, and you keep on going strong, moving forward, and blessing so many people that are of Jewish ancestry, and they know they are, they just don't have, you might say, the paperwork to be able to demonstrate it. But history contains that. And that's one of the things that we know that still has to come to complete fruition until the time of the Mashiach and Messianic time. But he will not declare, the Elijah will not declare the pure, tahor, or the impure, or declare the impure pure. In the commentary, we find out that Moses conveyed this tradition that the Torah states very clearly, the laws are very clearly stated. One of the things that we are not to do, we are not to deprive a person who happens to insist that they're of Jewish ancestry and say, oh, you have to go through conversion. No, my friends, there are processes already in place in which how to deal with these type of people. He will not dispute the lineage of those presumed to be of proper pedigree, yahus, or lineage. It is an important factor in Jewish law. A person who is descended from a mamzer, for those who are worried, well, there's possibility of illegitimate children being born, that's why they have to go through conversion. A person who's descended from a mamzer, a child born of an idolatrous or incestuous relationship, may not marry an Israelite of proper lineage. These factors are particularly important regarding priests. The sages consider it an accepted tradition that many people of blemished lineage have intermingled with the main body of the Jewish people, and that in the Messianic age, all the questions concerning lineage will be clarified. Not now. In other words, no Bet Din has the right to say, oh, you're not Jewish, even though they insist, and they insist that they are of Jewish pedigree. Nor will he establish the pedigree of those lineage is presumed blemish. Hílchot is also cited here on chapter 8 of the Mishnah Hílchot cites the opinion of certain sages who maintain that Elijah's contribution will center on establishing the lineage among the Jews. The sages in the Rambams do not accept this view. Rather, they interpret Elijah's primary contribution as we already mentioned. He will establish peace within the world. As it continues, he will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children. Elijah will eradicate. This is so important. One of the jobs of Elijah is to eradicate the hate that exists between men. This not only refers to Jews, because there's a lot of hatred among Jews and Jews. I mean, we just demonstrated that not too long ago in an attack that I received from a well-known rabbi in the community. The hate, the sinat hinam that rabbi demonstrated should make every single rabbi blush of sadness, because it was that, my friends, that caused the initial hatred, even of one that had proclaimed himself to be the Mashiach of the first century. Yes, my friends, we have to come to reckon the fact that the hatred started from within. This was not an issue of Jews against Christianity. It was Jews against a Jew in a Jewish movement. That was the level of sinat hinam that would rise in the first century. Now, if you want to recognize it or not, that's your problem. But the fact is, that was a historical fact that caused a historical unwinding of the persecution of the Jews by the Roman power. And this is why I say the following. When and if President Trump calls on the nations of the world to rebuild the temple and is able to appoint a Jew, hopefully preferably a Jew who happens to be of Davidic descendant, to manage and supervise the rebuilding of the temple, then that sin that was committed by Rome against the Jews will be rectified. Let me say that again. That sin that was committed by the Romans in the destruction of the Second Temple, representing the power of Christendom, of Rome, will be rectified. This is why the importance of Trump, who happens to declare himself as a Christian, is of great importance on a eschatological and cosmic level when he does it on the whole entire world. It will bring to peace those factions that have been at war with each other. Rather, we interpret that Elijah's primary contribution will be to do just that, to establish peace within the world. He will return the hearts of the fathers to the children. That's the very mission of Elijah. Now, there are some sages who say that Elijah's coming will precede the coming of the Messiah. I happen to agree. Many commentators support this opinion and explain that Elijah will motivate the people to do teshuvah, repentance. The service will hasten the redemption, for when Israel repents, she will immediately be redeemed. This according to Hílchot Laws, chapter 7, verse 5. All of these similar matters cannot be definitely known by man until they occur. In other words, when it happens. For these matters are defined in the prophet's words. The prophecy may be interpreted in numbers of ways. Even the wise men have no established tradition regarding these matters, but only their own interpretation of the verses, and therefore there is a controversy regarding them of these matters, like we see in Sanhedrin 97 and 98 for different interpretations and sequence of the details of the Messianic era. And therefore the controversy that are in them are these matters. Now, regarding the debates concerning the question, neither the order or the occurrence of the event, says Rambam, nor the precise details are among the fundamental principles of faith. In other words, it's not important whether it comes this way or it comes that way. A person should not occupy himself in what? In agadots, or in homiletic concerning these similar matters. Don't get stuck in the different traditions. That's expressed even in the Talmud, like mentioned in Talmud 97, Talmud 98. But rather, let them come and afloat in the realization of the fulfillment when they take place. He should consider them essential, for the study of them will neither bring fear nor love of God. So the whole idea of the Rambam writing all of this, that we should be motivated by the Yirat Shamayim, by the fear of heaven, and by Ahavat Shamayim, for the love of God. Similar, no one should try to determine the appointed time for the Messiah's coming. This is a big no-no. You will hear many of these self-appointed Kabbalists says, well, the Messiah is going to come on Rosh Hashanah 5784. I was told by well-sourced Kabbalists that the Messiah is already here. My friends, this is a big no-no. If you hear any rabbi, I don't care how smart he is, how intellectually wise he is, the very moment he says, well, in Rosh Hashanah of this particular year, the Messiah will come. Don't believe him. Don't accept his words. He's going against our sages. He's going against what the Talmud says, what our rabbi has said. We are not to tell the times and the moments in which the Messiah will make his appearance. One should not try to determine the appointed times of the Messiah's coming. Oh, my friends, and we have so many rabbis today, even some of the most precious Hasidic leaders of our century, giving dates and times in which the Messiah come, and then they are found to be sheker. And then, unfortunately, you have to point them out as being sheker so people don't follow them. Well, you know, I was led by... I don't care if you're a nanu, or if you're a yachi. If any of them basically tells you, oh, the Mashiach is going to come in October of 2025, don't believe them. A person should not occupy themselves with agadots. That's why we don't go by agadots or in homiletics concerning the similar matters, nor should he consider them as essential. It's not important. One should not try to determine the appointed time for the Messiah's coming. Our sages declared, may the spirits of those who attempt to determine the time of the Messiah's coming expire. Let them just die off. Expire. Rather, one should wait and believe in the general conception of the matter as explained. In other words, in generalities, we want Mashiach now. In generalities, we want the Messiah. In generalities, we are seeking forward to meeting the Mashiach. But the very moment you appoint someone and you say this person is the Mashiach and hasn't shown any demonstration of the fulfillment of the role of the Mashiach, sheker. False. During the era of the Messianic king, once his kingdom has been established, please listen to this very closely. When his kingdom has been established and all of Israel has gathered around him, the entire nation's line of descent will be established on the basis of his words imbued with prophetic insight, resting on him as stated in Malachi chapter 3, verse 31. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier. He will purify the lineage of the Levites first, the Leviim. The one is a priest of defined lineage. Now there's the Cohens. The one is a Levite of defined lineage. Those whose lineage he will not recognize will be lowered to the status of an Israelite. In other words, he's not going to strip from you your status of a Jew. Well, you know, I came from the Anusim. He is not going to take away your status as a Jew. You've been living as a Jew. You've been acting as a Jew. You are a Jew, even before the King Messiah. This is implied also in Ezra chapter 2, verse 63. And the governor said to them, they should not eat of the most holy things until a priest arise who wear the Urim, Tumim, From this verse you may infer that the prophetic insight will be used to define and make their lineage public. When he defines the lineage of the Israelites, he will make public the tribal origin of each, this one of this tribe and that one of that tribe. By the way, this is also stated in Psalms. This is also stated in a lot of literatures that those who are of Anusim descendants will finally have that rest in their hearts, knowing that it will be said, he is from here, and that one is from there, and they are all part of Kalal Yisrael. But he will not state a person's to be presumed to be, very important, to be of unblemished lineage, that he's illegitimate, or he's a descendant of slaves, or for the law is that once the family has become intermingled with the entire Jewish people, they may remain intermingled. In other words, they're part of the tribe, like it or not, even though they're all mingled together, even though there may be issues there. He will not humiliate anyone who happens to be perhaps of a questionable lineage. The sages did not yearn for the messianic era in order to have dominion over the entire world. This is completely contrary to all the false propaganda of the anti-Zionist movement that says that basically, the Jews just want to basically control the whole entire world. That was in fact the whole message of the book of the Protocols of Zion. I have a copy here. That was the whole intention, and it was written by even non-Jewish people in order to accuse them that their whole intention was to control the entire world, when it was the entire world's intention to try to control the Jews. The sage did not yearn the Messianic era in order to have dominion over the entire world, to rule the Gentiles, or to be exalted by the nations, or to eat and drink and celebrate. Rather, it was their desire to be free to involve themselves in what? In Torah and wisdom without any pressure or disturbance, so that they would merit the world to come, as it's explained in the Hílchot Teshuvah of the Rambam. In that era, says the Rambam, there will neither be famine, nor war, nor envy, nor competition, for good will flow in abundance, and all delight will be as common as dust. There will be so much wealth, so much prosperity. Yes, this is a whole different mindset. We're talking about making the world great in wealth and blessings from the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this all starts with the building of the temple. The occupation of the entire world will be solely to know God. I want to repeat this because it's so important. The entire purpose of the world will be only to know God. And therefore the Jews will be great sages and will know when, at this time, hidden matters, attaining knowledge of their Creator to the full extent of the human potential. Don't worry about Kabbalah right now. It's not the time for you to be dabbling into the mysticals and the secrets, when it's only going to take place to the full extent at the time when the Mashiach is here and when the Messianic period takes place. Now is not the time to be dabbling into the esoteric and learning from the professors in Spain how to breathe in, how to breathe out, how to breathe in, how to breathe out. Now is not the time. And yet the whole world has gone to the side of heresy and minut, trying to find out what's the mysteries of the spiritual realms so that you could be involved in the Kabbalistic know-how. Stop it. This is exactly what the Rambam is saying. Stop the mysticism. Stop this esoteric Kabbalism that you're learning, you're yearning to go after. Stop it already. Therefore the Jews will be great sages and will know. We will know the hidden manners, attaining the knowledge of the Creator to the full extent of human potential, as it says in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 9. And the world will be filled with the knowledge of God as the sea fills the ocean. But not only will the Jews have knowledge, the whole world will have knowledge. It would be an incredible awakening of knowledge of God throughout the whole entire world. Rambam makes it so simple. I mean, you really have to be a Kabbalist to really mess up what the Rambam is saying. Because only in that way can you really turn his words around. Calling A B and B A and B C. Stay away from Kabbalah. This is one of the things I tell a lot of my followers. Stay away from Kabbalah. Learn to do the commandments. Learn to do and involve yourself in the basics of Judaism. Learn to do good deeds. Learn the halacha regarding treating your fellow human being correctly. Stop speaking Lashon Hara and Motzi Shemra against a fellow Jew. Bringing people together, not tearing them apart by your words, your lying words. When we do this, we actually help rectify the world by our actions of keeping God's Torah real, down to earth. And here, when we arrive to the point where we will learn the entire Torah, and it will be something that will be imbued internally, the world will be completely changed, metamorphosed, as it were. Because then the person has been changed internally. The Jews will be completely transformed internally. They will no longer want to do what is wrong before God, nor the God of Israel. What is the greatest challenge that Elijah has? Like we've just read, he will have a war against hatred. Stop the hate. That will be his message. His message will be stop the hate. Now, he doesn't say just for the Jews. Jews against Jews. He says the whole entire world. Do you realize what's going on in the Middle East? Have you ever thought that a whole entire people has been so indoctrinated with a doctrine of hate that it affects their children, it affects their future generations, it affects an entire population because they have been absorbed and taught, indoctrinated to hate, not to love, to hate. I would challenge any Arab, any Muslim to create, in partnership with Jews and Christians, a school of love to help re-indoctrinate the children that they call themselves Palestinians. They need to get the hate out of their heart. They need to get the assassin mindset out of their system. They need to put down the weapons of hatred, of war, of evil, and learn peace and learn love and learn the Torah of our ancestors so that they can be able to coexist. There cannot be any coexistence with anyone who continues to embrace and push forward hatred. Even those imams that still are calling on a war of hatred, they need to either disappear or be made to disappear. They are against the God who created heaven and earth. By their speech, they are demonstrating they are not of God. Anyone crying out hatred to a fellow human being is declaring and is demonstrating their hate towards the God who created them. You cannot embrace hate and say you love God. That is not something that meshes together. That's like poison mixed in with water. The water will get poisoned and the person drinking that water will eventually become unalived. Stop the hate. Stop the march of hate. This is what these marches that you see in the street with a flag that has now symbolized not peace, not love, not humanity, but hatred. Of hatred. When we see these flags go down, it's a sign of hope that hate has lost its power. This is what the Rambam is talking about. So, finishing chapter 12 of the Laws of Kings, we see that everything will come to its perspective and its proper place so that we will be able to merit the world to come when hate is squashed. Because in that era there will neither be famine, there will neither be war, neither will there be competition, but only, as it says, only good will flow in abundance and all delights, which means even life, even the power to resurrect the dead will be present. We've seen what happens when we allow the science to mesh with Torah. It brings life out of the dead. And the whole entire occupation of the world will be solely to know God. The Rambam uses two exclusions here. And it's lo elah belaved, to emphasize a total lack of involvement with other concerns. At the present, even Torah sages should spend a certain amount of time in business endeavors in order to earn a livelihood, rather than to live off charity. And this I would recommend to all Chabad rabbis who basically are living off the community's welfare. And I say Chabad because they're the ones that usually are always needing to raise money to be able to sustain themselves. The Torah says, have a livelihood. Go to work. Stop sleeping in. Get off of your tuchas and start to work. Stop relying. Stop accusing others of doing what you're doing. And in this way, you work and you teach Torah. Wow, that's an incredible thing. Now you're becoming like the Rambam, where he had his own ways of making money, and at the same time, he offered his learning in the community for free. And therefore, the Jews will be great sages on a higher level, attaining the knowledge of the Creator to the full extent of human potential. And then the world will be filled with the knowledge of God as the sea fills the ocean bed. From the river to the sea, God's knowledge will be everywhere. Not the hatred, not the evil, not the idea of eliminating another group. The very foundation of the Torah is laid here. And this completes the Hílchot Melachim and the entire work. Blessed be he who spoke, and the world came into being in whole and in part. And this concludes also the 14th book of the book of Judges, and it contains 5 halachots and 81 chapters. Hílchot Sanhedrin, chapter 26, the entire text. There are 83 halachots, 982 chapters, complete and perfect with the praise of God, the Creator of the world, and we also follow in comparison to this and say, God, bring Mashiach now. Build the temple now. And my prayer is the same prayer that many of you are praying for. My hope that I can visualize already how things can take place, how Trump can be able to call the nations of the world to rebuild the temple, and as a result, appoint someone from the house of David to make sure it's managed and there is accountability in the rebuilding, not the spurring off of money like we've been seeing, and rebuild the temple in its place, and that we can finally be removed from the trap of our own creation. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero. With all my heart, I say to all of you, Mashiach Akshav. We need Mashiach, but more important than all, we need God in our lives in every aspect to be able to bring Mashiach now.